Let's Get To presents the Big League Chew, an eye on the majors.
So we are thrilled and excited to bring back onto the show Emily Nyman from the Breaking Balls podcast. This is going to be her first of a few trips, I'm hoping, this year. Basically, Emily, I'm talking less MLB, so I'll just have to bring you on to have you do it.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk to you preceding the Yankees' 28th championship season that is going to commence in the next few days. So it's a pleasure. Pleasure's all mine.
It's hard to bet against them. I think the only thing that I might do to poke fun is that it is an odd numbered year, and 15, 17, and 19 say otherwise. But let's talk about them because they are clearly, I think anybody who doesn't have them in the top three as far as stacked teams and in the American League in particular, what are a couple of reasons why you think number 28 is coming?
They're ready. This is the window. The lineup is stacked, and we have our ace, our second ace, Severino, is going to be coming back. I think at some time in June.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed for Tyone and Kluber to at least get to even half of what they used to be. That'll be perfect for the spots that they're in the rotation. So all the pieces are in place. Anything less than a World Series trip and even a title is a failure, I think. And I'm not usually one of those fans. I'm not a World Series or bust fan every season, but this is the year.
Yeah, you really aren't. And you're always very, very realistic on how you view things. And look, I think that lineup is too good. And particularly with Garrett Cole, you're not going to, at some point, the law of averages, it's baseball, right? The law of averages are eventually going to play in your favor.
Right, exactly. And, this lineup is, people are all worried about the pitching, and I get that, but not every team can be built like the Dodgers. You know what I mean? Where they have stacked through from 1 to 9 in the lineup, and then their pitching rotation is lights out. The Yankees are built to be able to withstand having mediocre to slightly above mediocre pitching for half the rotation because the team can score 5-6 runs a game. So I think that now with even better pitching, hopefully infused in there, that's the formula.
I think especially in the division they're in, every team in that division is either a good offensive team, like I think we both think the Blue Jays will be, but who are they throwing? And the Rays always find arms, but who do they have to swing the bat? And I think that's ultimately why the Yankees are at least going to cakewalk through the division.
Yeah, I don't see the division being much of a problem. I'm sure there'll be plenty of series against the Blue Jays this year that I'll be annoyed as hell, but I still think that the Yankees are going to come out on top and pretty handedly at the end of the season.
So if they don't get 28, if they get there, what do you think is something that might have gone wrong? Do you think it's just going to be if they got the Padres and Dodgers and they just were the better team? Or do you think that is there some flaw in the Yankees roster this year?
I think that the only thing that can end up tripping them up is what we were just talking about a moment ago, that if, they in a series, their opponent, their pitching is lights out, good pitching beats good hitting. That's like one of the old idioms of baseball. So I think that can just be it, that our pitching will be great, but if the lineup gets shut down, all it'll take is 1 or 2 runs from the other team. It happened against the Rays last year. We outscored and outhit the Rays in that series, but it came down to literally one swing in the late innings of the deciding game.
What I love about you, and you are my favorite baseball podcast out there.
Thank you.
What I love about you, though, is you have a unique perspective, point of view, but you also are just a real student of the game, and you really do a good job, I think, of portraying the game as it is. We've got a lot going on coming into the future, CBA, but then also these rules changes. Where do you think baseball's heading, and is it still going to be a game we're both going to like?
I've reflected a lot on this the past few weeks, and I think it still will be a game that we love because for a while I was one of the, old men shaking my fist yelling at a cloud about the defensive shift rules and MLB possibly banning that. And then I had like an epiphany one day how much I love the DH, and I am a huge proponent of the universal DH. And I'm sure at some point in the 70s when they first made the rule for the DH in the American League, that there were a lot of people, probably even more so, that felt the way that I do about the shift, about the DH. And It didn't ruin the game. It didn't change the game. It made the game a lot better as far as fans in the future are concerned. So I think that it may be a little odd, but because it's not going to be with any buzzers or all this bizarre stuff that I thought for some reason that didn't actually make sense. It's going to be just the infielders have to stay on the dirt until the ball's thrown or the pitch is thrown. So I think that it's going to be not really a discernible difference, unfortunately, for Major League. I don't even think it's going to increase balls in play all that much.
Yeah, you're probably right. I do think that you raise an interesting point, though, because it's weird because in baseball, we argue about like the sanctity of the game, but yet historical evidence says there really is no sanctity. And then the purity of the game, but yet the game has always been tinkered with, the mound raised and lowered, the ball wound tighter. It's weird how we live in this, like we think it's pure and we just have collective amnesia about all the times that it isn't.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's because I feel like even after all these years, we're still trying to, it's like a forced marriage to compare baseball to the other three major pro sports. And there's just no comparison whatsoever. The other three have a lot of comparisons because of the nature of the game, timed game, the possession can switch on a dime, where this game, those two things are huge difference makers, and people want it to be like the other games, but you can't do it. So they try all these things throughout time to try to make it more exciting, faster. And the game has a life of its own, and it's going to evolve on its own. And we can try to tinker with it, but Major League Baseball finds out that you don't really know what the end result's going to be of that tinkering. You can hope for an outcome that you want, but this game doesn't really care about what you want. It's just going to do whatever it wants. I speak from experience as someone who played it for a long time. It's very frustrating.
It's very frustrating. You always have good takes on contracts and things. And it's funny because, it is open. We're dropping this on opening day. So happening opening day, but with the Astros shortstop situation, and there's still negotiations happening, and you see fans that are like, I'd play for 120 million. Why is it that fans can't understand how basic capitalism works and that a player is worth what the market dictates they're worth?
I think it's a lot of willful ignorance because they want to disrespect what the job is. They don't take it seriously because it's not a boring, mundane job that the rest of us have to go to. And they resent, I think, and this isn't meant to be an insult to fan base, to the fans, but I think that a lot of people will resent that someone like that has a unique skill that they were just born with. And it's frustrating that I wasn't born with it. So I'm just constantly going to say that this guy isn't worth that. That guy's not worth that, but they're not basing it on anything. If you ask them, okay, well, why do you feel that way? Most people don't say anything, but someone today literally said, just my gut. And I said, oh, okay, guess I can't argue with that, John 85672 or whatever your screen name was.
You had to drop the Twitter numbers. No, but you again, nail on the head. And there's directions an organization can go knowing what that value is, but I don't see the value in getting mad at either party if deals don't come together. I think it's different for everyone, but I think obviously being a teacher is probably more valuable than playing shortstop or playing, being Aaron Judge. But at the end of the day, anyone can learn to teach. Not anyone can be Aaron Judge.
And right. And at the end of the day, also, that's capitalism, right? Like this capitalism, the market has decided that these guys are worth this amount. Because you see that all the time. People, first responders should be paid that much. And I get that. In theory, yes, there are many people that are very important to our society that are undervalued, teachers, first responder, police, but capitalism has dictated that no one wants to watch them work. I mean, yeah, I guess we had cops and we had some movies about some teachers, but no one wants to go to the police department and sit there and buy a soda and watch people work. So I think that people like capitalism in theory, but then when it comes to people making a lot of money off capitalism just by what they see as pure luck, then they don't like it suddenly. And that person isn't worth that.
It reminds me of the one line in the program. James Caan is like, call me when 80,000 people get into a stadium to watch a kid take a math test.
Exactly.
What's one thing that you're just really looking forward to this season outside of the parade for number 28?
162 games. I didn't realize, after everything from last year and emotions just so bogged down and focused on what was going on in the moment. Not until this year, where there's a lot more hope and outlook for the future, did I realize how much I missed this ritual of opening day being in this week. And I took that for granted. So I'm really, really looking forward to something that I thought was always going to be there and was just a constant in life. So it was really humbling. I mean, a lot of stuff was last year, but something like that in particular was for me. And now that it's back, I can't wait to watch baseball every day for more than 12 weeks.
Amen. She's Emily Nyman. Emily, tell us where we can find the podcast. Again, it is my favorite baseball podcast out there.
Thank you. I'm so proud of it. I can't believe we've been doing it for a year now. It's been great. You can find us on Twitter at BreakBallsPod, or you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, any of the major podcasts. Wherever you listen to them, you can find us. Just Breaking Balls with Emily Nyman, and it's a good time. You'll laugh, I promise.
Emily, yeah, you absolutely will laugh and they have some fun. It's a great time. Emily, thanks so much for jumping on our opening day episode of Let's Get To.
Thank you so much for having me, James. Can't wait for the season. Go Yankees.